That's my seat. I don't know how you got in here, but you need to move, screamed Karen Mitchell, a white woman. The flight crew rushed to accommodate her demands while she live-streamed the whole confrontation, expecting viral fame for standing up for herself. But 15 minutes later, that same black man walked back onto the aircraft, and the first words out of his mouth changed everything. I am Marcus Williams, CEO and owner of this entire airline. Every person who participated in removing me from my own aircraft is now terminated. The woman who took his seat, arrested for hate crimes and banned from all air travel. The flight attendants who moved him, fired instantly and facing federal charges. The captain who allowed it, license permanently revoked. The gate agents who supported her, unemployed and blacklisted from aviation forever. But here's what will completely shock you. This wasn't just any airline. This was a flagship aircraft of a $28 billion aviation empire, and the man they humiliated owns every plane, route, and airport gate in the company. The live stream she thought would make her famous instead documented the most expensive discrimination mistake in aviation history. The lawsuit that destroyed them all paid him $400 million, which he used to create the world's largest Aviation Civil Rights Foundation. The viral video became evidence in federal court. The Senate Aviation Committee hearings he triggered created the Airline Passenger Equality Act that revolutionized air travel forever. And the business conference he was flying to? They made him the keynote speaker after witnessing how he handles corporate justice. This is a story of 15 minutes that obliterated an entire flight crew and changed commercial aviation forever. Subscribe right now because what you're about to witness will show you the most satisfying justice ever served at 30,000 feet. Marcus Williams lives in a spectacular penthouse overlooking Seattle's Elliott Bay, where he reviews aviation reports every morning at 4 a.m. for his airline empire worth $28 billion. But the achievements covering his office walls tell an extraordinary story that would shock anyone who sees him in casual clothes boarding commercial flights. MIT Aeronautical Engineering, 1988, where he graduated first in his class while designing revolutionary aircraft safety systems that are still used today. Harvard Business School MBA, 1992, completed while building his first charter airline from a single plane. Federal Aviation Administration Master Pilot License, 1995, earned while personally flying humanitarian missions to disaster zones. Congressional Medal for Aviation Innovation, 2001, recognizing his safety technologies that prevented over 300 potential accidents. Presidential Award for Entrepreneurship, 2008, honoring his creation of America's largest minority-owned aviation company. Time Magazine's Aviation Visionary of the Decade, 2015, for transforming passenger safety and inclusive air travel. International Aviation Hall of Fame, 2020, making him the youngest person ever inducted for her contributions to commercial aviation safety and equality. But here's what those prestigious achievements don't reveal. Marcus Williams is the founder, CEO, and sole owner of Williams Aviation Group, the parent company that owns 12 major airlines, including Horizon Air, the very airline where he was about to experience the most expensive discrimination incident in aviation history. Marcus's story begins in ways that would astonish most people who see him commanding boardrooms and congressional hearings today. Born in 1965 in Compton, California, during the height of urban challenges, he was raised by his grandmother after his parents were killed in a drive-by shooting when Marcus was just 9 years old. His grandmother, Dorothy Williams, was a 58-year-old woman who worked 2 jobs, cleaning offices at Los Angeles International Airport during the day and working at a laundromat at night, to support Marcus and his 2 younger sisters after their parents' deaths. The Williams family lived in a small house near LAX, where the constant sound of aircraft engines filled their daily lives. Instead of being disturbed by the noise, young Marcus became fascinated by aviation, spending hours watching planes take off and land while dreaming of understanding how they worked and who controlled them. Baby, Dorothy would tell Marcus while pointing to planes overhead, those planes carry people all over the world, but the people who own them don't look like us. Maybe you can change that someday. Maybe you can be the one who makes sure everyone gets treated fairly when they travel. Those prophetic words shaped everything that followed. Marcus excelled academically at Centennial High School while working every afternoon and weekend at LAX, where Dorothy had helped him get a part-time job in aircraft maintenance. Unlike other teenagers who saw plane cleaning as temporary work, Marcus used every opportunity to learn about aviation technology, aircraft systems, and airline operations. His physics teacher, Dr. James Chun, was a former NASA engineer who had chosen to teach in underserved communities. He recognized Marcus's exceptional analytical abilities and his genuine passion for aerospace technology, encouraging him to pursue engineering despite the financial obstacles his family faced. Marcus, Dr. Chun told him during a career planning session, "You have the mathematical aptitude and scientific thinking to become an aerospace engineer, but you also have something more valuable. You understand how aviation affects real people's lives. That perspective could make you revolutionary in this industry." Dr. Chun helped Marcus apply for engineering scholarships, connected him with aerospace industry mentors, and taught him that success in aviation required mastering both technical excellence and business leadership. During his senior year, Marcus's outstanding academic performance and community leadership earned him a full scholarship to MIT, where he studied aeronautical engineering, while also taking business and economics courses. He was fascinated by how technology, safety, and human factors intersected in aviation operations. His engineering professors were consistently impressed by Marcus's innovative approaches to aircraft design and safety systems. Unlike many students who focus purely on technical specifications, Marcus understood how engineering decisions affected passenger experiences, crew working conditions, and airline profitability. Marcus brings a perspective to our projects that enriches everyone's understanding, Professor Sarah Martinez told colleagues during a faculty meeting. He sees connections between technical systems and human experiences that other students miss because he's actually worked in aviation operations and understands real-world challenges. During college summers, Marcus worked at various airlines in different capacities: baggage handling, aircraft maintenance, customer service, and flight operations. He was struck by the persistent patterns of discrimination he witnessed against passengers and employees from minority communities. He saw black passengers questioned more frequently about their tickets, seated in less desirable locations, and treated with suspicion by crew members who made assumptions based on appearance. He witnessed Latino employees being passed over for promotions despite excellent performance. He observed how systemic bias affected everything from hiring practices to customer service standards. His senior engineering thesis focused on developing technological solutions to prevent discrimination-related incidents while improving overall aviation safety and efficiency. The project attracted attention from airline executives, federal aviation officials, and civil rights organizations who were beginning to understand the safety and business costs of discriminatory practices. Harvard Business School represented the next crucial step in Marcus's strategic plan to transform the aviation industry. Despite his engineering excellence, he understood that creating lasting change would require business expertise, leadership skills, and the credibility that came from elite educational credentials. His business school professors were impressed by his unique combination of technical expertise, operational experience, and social awareness. His case study analyses consistently demonstrated a deep understanding of aviation economics, while incorporating insights about safety, customer service, and workforce development that his classmates from traditional backgrounds couldn't match. Marcus understands the aviation industry from multiple perspectives that most executives never experience, Professor Robert Johnson told colleagues. He's worked in aircraft maintenance, understands the technology intimately, has genuine empathy for both passengers and employees, and possesses the analytical skills to develop innovative solutions. That combination is extraordinarily rare and valuable. His Harvard thesis focused on developing sustainable business models for airlines that prioritize safety, customer service, and inclusive practices while maintaining profitability in intensely competitive markets. He proposed using advanced training programs, technology solutions, and accountability systems to eliminate discrimination while improving operational performance. The thesis attracted significant attention from venture capitalists, aviation industry leaders, and government officials who were beginning to recognize that discrimination wasn't just a moral issue, but also a business liability that affected safety, efficiency, and profitability. After graduating from Harvard, Marcus received impressive job offers from major airlines, aerospace companies, and consulting firms. United Airlines offered him a fast-track management position. Boeing wanted him for their commercial aircraft division. McKinsey offered him a role in their transportation practice. But Marcus had different plans. Instead of joining an established organization, he used his savings, family loans, and a small business loan to purchase a single-use aircraft and start Williams Charter Services, providing transportation for communities that major airlines didn't serve adequately. His first plane was a 1985 Cessna Citation that he purchased for $85,000 and personally maintained while learning to fly commercially. Most industry experts thought he was crazy to start an airline with a single aging aircraft and no industry connections. You could make excellent money working for United or Delta, his Harvard professors warned. Why risk everything on such a difficult business when you have guaranteed opportunities with major carriers? But Marcus had witnessed too much discrimination and inefficiency in the aviation industry to be satisfied working within existing systems. He wanted to build something different, an airline that treated all passengers with respect while maintaining the highest standards of safety and service. Williams Charter Services began by serving routes that major airlines had abandoned, connecting small communities to major cities, providing medical transport for underserved areas, and offering affordable flights for working families who couldn't afford major carrier prices. Marcus's approach was revolutionary in several ways. He hired pilots and crew members from diverse backgrounds, implemented customer service training that emphasized treating every passenger with dignity, and used technology to streamline operations while reducing costs. Most importantly, he established clear policies that discrimination would result in immediate termination for any employee, regardless of their position or seniority. These standards were not just written policies, but actively enforced through regular training, mystery shopping programs, and customer feedback systems. Within 3 years, Williams Charter Services had grown to 5 aircraft and was generating steady profits while serving communities that other carriers ignored. Marcus reinvested every dollar into expanding the fleet, improving service, and developing innovative safety programs. His success attracted attention from investors, competitors, and industry analysts who were surprised that a young minority entrepreneur could build a profitable airline in such a challenging business environment. By 1998, Marcus had expanded Williams Charter into a regional airline serving 15 cities across the West Coast. By 2003, he had acquired 2 struggling airlines and merged them into Williams Regional Airways, creating a significant presence in underserved markets. His acquisition strategy was methodical and focused. He identified airlines that were failing due to poor management, acquired them at reasonable prices, implemented his operational standards and customer service policies, and transformed them into profitable enterprises that served their communities effectively. By 2010, Williams Aviation Group included 7 airlines serving 127 cities across North America. The company had become profitable, respected for safety and customer service, and recognized as one of the most successful minority-owned businesses in American aviation. By 2015, Marcus had expanded internationally, acquiring airlines in the Caribbean and Central America while maintaining his commitment to safety, service, and inclusive practices. Williams Aviation Group employed over 25,000 people and served more than 8 million passengers annually. By 2020, the company had grown to 12 airlines operating 340 aircraft with routes to 289 cities worldwide. Marcus had been recognized as one of America's most successful entrepreneurs while maintaining his commitment to the principles that had guided him since starting with a single aircraft. His flagship airline, Horizon Air, represented the pinnacle of his vision. Premium service, advanced safety systems, and inclusive practices that made air travel accessible and comfortable for passengers from all backgrounds. The airline consistently ranked among the top carriers for customer satisfaction and safety performance. By 2024, Williams Aviation Group had become a $28 billion enterprise, employing over 45,000 people worldwide. Marcus had achieved his childhood dream of owning an airline, while creating opportunities for others and establishing new standards for inclusive aviation. But success never changed Marcus's fundamental character or his commitment to the principles his grandmother had taught him. He frequently flew on his own airlines and competitors' flights, often in casual clothes, observing how crew members treated different passengers and ensuring his standards were maintained consistently. He maintained detailed systems for monitoring customer complaints, investigating discrimination incidents, and holding employees accountable for providing equal service to all passengers. His zero-tolerance policies for discrimination were well known throughout the industry and consistently enforced. This brings us to Wednesday, October 23rd, 2024, a date that will become infamous in aviation history. Marcus was flying from Seattle to New York for the International Aviation Safety Conference, where he was scheduled to deliver the keynote address about innovation in passenger safety systems. He had booked a first-class seat 2A on Horizon Air Flight 2847, traveling under his personal name rather than his corporate identity to observe normal operations without the special treatment that occurred when crew members knew the owner was aboard. He dressed casually for cross-country flight. Comfortable jeans, a simple black sweater, and running shoes, planning to change into business attire after arriving in New York. His carry-on bag contained his laptop, conference materials, and a presentation he would deliver to aviation leaders from around the world. Before we continue with what happened next, I want you to think about how assumptions and prejudices affect air travel today. Have you ever witnessed passengers being treated differently based on their appearance? Have you seen discrimination in airports or on aircraft? Share your experiences, because Marcus's story shows what happens when those prejudices target someone with the power to change everything. Horizon Air Flight 2847 was operated by a Boeing 737 MAX, one of the most advanced aircraft in Williams Aviation Group's fleet, featuring enhanced safety systems, premium cabin configurations, and state-of-the-art passenger amenities. The aircraft represented Marcus's commitment to combining cutting-edge technology with exceptional customer service. The flight was scheduled to depart Seattle-Tacoma International Airport at 2:15 p.m., arriving at John F. Kennedy International Airport at 10:45 p.m. Eastern Time. The route was popular with business travelers, vacation passengers, and aviation industry professionals attending conferences and meetings. But this particular flight was operating under circumstances that Marcus was unaware of and that would prove catastrophic for everyone involved. The regular captain, Maria Rodriguez, was attending a safety training seminar in Denver, and the regular cabin crew supervisor, James Chun, was on vacation with his family in Hawaii. The substitute captain was Robert Sterling, a 48-year-old pilot who had joined Horizon Air 6 months earlier after being terminated from Delta Airlines for what his former employer described as failure to maintain professional standards in customer interactions and adherence to company diversity policies. Robert had been hired during a period when Williams Aviation Group was rapidly expanding and needed experienced pilots quickly. His flying credentials were excellent, and his 22 years of commercial aviation experience had convinced the hiring director to offer him a position despite some concerning references about his interpersonal skills and attitude toward passengers. Had Marcus interviewed Robert personally, he would have immediately detected the racial prejudices and class-based assumptions that had caused problems throughout Robert's aviation career. His approach to flying emphasized what he called maintaining order and ensuring that passengers knew their place within the aircraft social hierarchy. The cabin crew included 4 flight attendants who would soon find their careers destroyed by their participation in the most expensive discrimination incident in aviation history. Karen Mitchell, the senior flight attendant, was a 41-year-old woman who had been with Horizon Air for 8 months after being recruited from American Airlines. She had a reputation for efficiency and attention to detail, but she had also absorbed Robert's emphasis on scrutinizing passengers who didn't fit traditional first-class stereotypes. David Walsh was a flight attendant who had been with Williams Aviation Group for 2 years and generally provided adequate service. But he was easily influenced by senior crew members and reluctant to challenge authority figures even when their instructions seemed problematic. Lisa Martinez was a junior flight attendant working in her first aviation job after completing training 6 months earlier. She had joined Horizon Air specifically because of Williams Aviation Group's reputation for inclusive practices, but she was still learning company policies while trying to impress supervisors with her performance. Michael Johnson was the lead flight attendant, a 35-year-old aviation professional with 10 years of experience who had joined Horizon Air because of the company's excellent reputation for employee development and customer service. He had growing concerns about Robert's attitude and Karen's discriminatory tendencies, but he hadn't yet found the courage to report these issues to management. At approximately 1:45 p.m., passengers began boarding flight 2847 for the cross-country journey to New York. The boarding process was proceeding normally, with first-class passengers and frequent flyers boarding first, followed by passengers with families or special needs, and then general boarding by seat zones. Marcus boarded during the first-class priority boarding period and located his assigned seat, 2A, a premium window position they preferred for long flights because it offered views of the landscape below while providing a quiet environment for work or rest. He stowed his carry-on bag in the overhead compartment and settled into his seat, opening his laptop to review his keynote presentation one final time before the conference. The first-class cabin was filling with other passengers, business travelers, tourists, and professionals heading to various destinations in the New York area. The atmosphere was typical of premium cabin service during boarding, quiet, comfortable, and professional, with flight attendants assisting passengers with seating, storage, and pre-departure beverage service. But approximately 10 minutes into the boarding process, Karen Mitchell approached seat 2A and noticed something that would trigger the most expensive discrimination incident in aviation history. A white woman named Janet Morrison, 44 years old, was approaching the first-class cabin with her boarding pass in hand, looking for her assigned seat. Janet was a real estate agent from Portland who had booked the trip to New York for a luxury property conference, paying full price for her first-class ticket as a business expense. When Janet looked at her boarding pass and then at the seat numbers, she became confused and then increasingly agitated. Her boarding pass clearly showed seat 2A, the same seat where Marcus was currently sitting and working on his laptop. "Excuse me," Janet said loudly enough for other passengers and crew members to hear. "I think there's been some kind of mistake." "That's my seat." Marcus looked up from his laptop with mild surprise, checking his own boarding pass to confirm his seat assignment. "I have seat 2A as well. There must be some kind of booking error." But instead of calling a flight attendant to resolve the apparent double booking diplomatically, Janet immediately made assumptions based on Marcus's appearance and casual attire. In her mind, there was no way a black man in jeans and a sweater could legitimately have a first-class seat on the same flight, where she had paid full price for premium accommodations. "I don't think so," Janet said with obvious hostility and condescension. "I paid good money for this seat, and I doubt you did. You need to move to wherever you actually belong." The confrontation was beginning to attract attention from other first-class passengers and cabin crew members. Karen Mitchell approached to assess what she assumed was a seating dispute that could be resolved quickly by verifying ticket information and reassigning seats as necessary. But when Karen saw the situation, a well-dressed white woman challenging a casually dressed black man's right to occupy a first-class seat, she immediately made assumptions about who was likely to be in the right and who was probably trying to take advantage of the situation. "What seems to be the problem here?" Karen asked, directing her question to Janet rather than to Marcus, immediately signaling where her sympathies lay. "This man is in my seat," Janet replied with righteous indignation. "I have seat 2A, and he's refusing to move." Karen examined Janet's boarding pass briefly, then looked at Marcus with obvious skepticism. "Sir, may I see your boarding pass, please?" Marcus handed over his boarding pass, which clearly showed seat 2A, the same assignment as Janet's ticket. But instead of recognizing this as a booking system error that needed to be resolved fairly, Karen assumed that Marcus had somehow obtained his boarding pass through illegitimate means. "There seems to be some confusion here," Karen said diplomatically, though her tone suggested she believed Marcus was the source of the problem. "Let me check with our gate agents to resolve the seating issue." But Janet was not willing to wait for an official resolution. She had paid for first-class service and expected immediate action to remove what she considered an obvious interloper who was occupying her rightful seat. "I don't need you to check anything," Janet said loudly and aggressively. "I can see what's happening here. This man has tried to upgrade himself illegitimately, and I want him moved immediately." Marcus maintained his composure despite the obvious racial implications of Janet's accusations. "Ma'am, I have a legitimate boarding pass for this seat. If there's been a booking error, I'm sure the crew can resolve it professionally." But Janet was now fully committed to her narrative that Marcus was attempting some kind of fraud or deception to gain access to accommodations he hadn't paid for and didn't deserve. Don't try to act like you belong here, Janet said with unmistakable racial contempt. I know exactly what's going on. These people always try to take things that don't belong to them. The phrase, "these people," sent shockwaves through the first-class cabin. Several passengers turned to stare at the confrontation with expressions ranging from shock to disgust. Others began discreetly recording the incident with their smartphones, sensing that they were witnessing something that would have serious consequences. Karen Mitchell should have immediately intervened to stop Janet's discriminatory language and de-escalate the situation professionally. Instead, she allowed her own biases to influence her response to the confrontation. "Sir, to avoid further disruption to other passengers, I'm going to ask you to move to an economy seat while we sort this out," Karen said, making the assumption that Marcus was a problem that needed to be removed rather than a victim of discrimination who deserved protection. Marcus understood exactly what was happening and why. He had faced similar situations throughout his life. Assumptions that his presence in first-class accommodations must be illegitimate, suspicious, or problematic simply because of his race and appearance. "I am not moving to the economy," Marcus said firmly but calmly. "I have a legitimate first-class ticket, and I expect to be treated with the same respect you would show to any other passenger." Janet interpreted Marcus's refusal to accept the downgrade as evidence that he was indeed trying to defraud the airline by maintaining access to services he hadn't purchased legitimately. "See? He's being completely unreasonable," Janet said to Karen with obvious satisfaction. "Get security to remove him before he causes more problems." Karen was now facing a situation that required decisive leadership and adherence to company anti-discrimination policies. Unfortunately, she chose to support the white passengers' demands rather than protect the black passengers' rights. "Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to cooperate with our crew instructions and move to an available economy seat," Karen said with increasing authority. "If you refuse, we'll have to involve airport security." The threat of airport security and potential arrest pushed Marcus toward his limit of tolerance for discriminatory treatment. He had built the airline industry's most successful minority-owned company specifically to prevent incidents like this, and now he was experiencing discrimination on his own aircraft. "I am not moving anywhere," Marcus said with controlled anger. "I have every right to be in this seat, and I will not accept discriminatory treatment based on assumptions about my race or economic status." Janet pulled out her smartphone and began recording Marcus while speaking loudly enough for other passengers to hear clearly. "This is what happens when these people try to get into first class," Janet said for her video recording. "They take seats they didn't pay for and then claim discrimination when they get caught. I'm documenting this whole thing so everyone can see what really happened." Janet's decision to record and narrate the incident for social media would soon prove to be the most catastrophic mistake of her life, providing video evidence of her discriminatory behavior that would be used in federal court proceedings. Meanwhile, Captain Robert Sterling had been monitoring the situation from the cockpit and decided to intervene when he saw that the confrontation was not being resolved quickly by his cabin crew. "What's the situation back here?" Robert asked as he approached the first-class cabin with obvious annoyance at the delay in departure preparations. "Captain, we have a seating dispute," Karen explained. "This passenger is refusing to move to economy even though there's clearly been some kind of booking error with his ticket." Robert looked at Marcus and immediately made the same assumptions that had guided Karen's handling of the situation. In his mind, a black man in casual clothes challenging a white woman's claim to a first-class seat was obviously wrong and needed to be removed quickly to maintain order. "Sir, I'm the captain of this aircraft, and I'm instructing you to move to an economy seat immediately," Robert said with full authority. "If you refuse to comply with crew instructions, you'll be removed from this flight entirely." Marcus looked around the first-class cabin at the crowd of passengers, crew members, and now the captain, who were all assuming he was a problem that needed to be eliminated. He saw Janet recording everything while providing racial commentary for her followers. He saw other passengers watching with expressions ranging from sympathy to agreement with crew's actions. But Marcus Williams had not built a $28 billion aviation empire by accepting other people's limitations or backing down when confronted with injustice. He had not overcome poverty and discrimination to become one of America's most successful entrepreneurs, only to be intimidated by ignorant employees who had no idea whose airline they were working for. "Captain, I am not moving from this seat," Marcus said with quiet authority that carried throughout the cabin. "I have a legitimate ticket. I have done nothing wrong, and I will not accept discriminatory treatment on this aircraft." Robert interpreted Marcus's refusal as insubordination that required immediate and decisive action to maintain his authority as captain and prevent the situation from escalating further. "Sir, you are now refusing to comply with direct crew instructions, which is a federal offense," Robert announced loudly. "I'm calling airport security to have you removed from this aircraft immediately." Janet continued recording while providing excited commentary for her social media audience. "This is unbelievable. This guy is now resisting the captain's orders and is probably going to get arrested. This is exactly why these people don't belong in first class." As airport security officers boarded the aircraft to remove Marcus, he calmly pulled out his smartphone and made a call that would destroy everyone involved in the discrimination. "This is Marcus Williams," he said clearly and loudly enough for everyone in the first-class cabin to hear. "I need you to immediately connect me with our corporate legal department, our crisis management team, and the federal aviation authorities. I am currently being removed from Horizon Air Flight 2847 by crew members who are violating federal civil rights laws and company policies." The words caused Robert Sterling to pause, but he was too committed to the confrontation to reconsider his actions or investigate Marcus's identity further. Marcus continued his phone conversation as security officers prepared to escort him from the aircraft. "I also need you to contact the FBI Civil Rights Division, the Department of Transportation Office of Inspector General, and our Media Relations Department. We have a federal civil rights violation occurring on one of our aircraft." As Marcus was escorted off Flight 2847, Janet continued recording and celebrating what she considered her victory over someone who had tried to take advantage that didn't belong to him. "And that's how you handle people who try to steal first-class seats." Janet concluded her video before posting it to her social media accounts with hashtags like first-class fraud and airline security. Marcus walked calmly down the jet bridge while continuing his phone conversation, his voice carrying back toward the aircraft where passengers and crew members were still trying to understand what had just occurred. "This is Marcus Williams, Chairman and Chief Executive Officer, Williams Aviation Group, the parent company that owns Horizon Air," Marcus said with unmistakable authority. "I have just been subjected to racial discrimination and illegally removed from my own aircraft by crew members who violated federal law and company policy." The response was immediate and filled with professional urgency. "Mr. Williams, this is Linda Martinez, General Counsel for Williams Aviation Group. Are you safe? Do you require immediate assistance or medical attention?" "Linda, I am physically unharmed, but I need comprehensive documentation of the civil rights violation for federal criminal and civil proceedings," Marcus replied. "My immediate priority is ensuring that everyone involved in this discrimination faces appropriate legal consequences. Mr. Williams, I am personally dispatching our corporate security team, executive management, and federal investigators to SeaTac Airport immediately. I am also notifying the FAA, DOT, and FBI about these civil rights violations." Back on the aircraft, Captain Robert Sterling was beginning to experience the first doubts about his handling of the situation, but his pride prevented him from reconsidering his actions or investigating Marcus's identity. "Linda, I want everyone who participated in this discrimination terminated from Williams Aviation Group immediately," Marcus continued, his voice now carrying back into the aircraft through the open door. "The captain who ordered my removal, the flight attendant who supported racial profiling, and any crew members who participated in violating my civil rights. Consider it done, Mr. Williams. I am also implementing immediate investigation of all hiring practices, training procedures, and management oversight at Horizon Air to determine how this discrimination occurred without corporate awareness." Janet Morrison was still recording and commenting, unaware that she had just documented her own federal crimes for social media distribution. "I can't believe this guy is still trying to claim he's some kind of executive. The security is probably going to arrest him for trespassing and fraud." But within minutes, Marcus's phone began ringing with calls from federal aviation officials, FBI civil rights investigators, and his executive team members who were coordinating the company's response to crisis. "Mr. Williams, this is Robert Chun, Chief Security Officer for Williams Aviation Group," came one voice that was clearly audible to passengers still seated near the aircraft door. I am personally en route to SeaTac with federal agents and a full investigation team. This is Patricia Rodriguez, Chief Human Resources Officer. Came another voice. I am implementing immediate termination procedures for all crew members involved and emergency policy review for all Horizon Air operations. This is Michael Johnson, Chief Operating Officer. Came a third voice. I am contacting federal regulators, news media, and civil rights organizations to ensure appropriate coverage of our response to this discrimination. Captain Robert Sterling was now listening to these conversations with growing alarm as he began to understand that he might have made a serious error in judgment about Marcus's identity and authority. 15 minutes after being removed from Flight 2847, Marcus Williams walked back onto his own aircraft, accompanied by federal agents, corporate security personnel, and legal representatives. The first words out of his mouth would be remembered by every person on that plane. I am Marcus Williams, Chairman and Chief Executive Officer, Williams Aviation Group, the parent company that owns this airline, this aircraft, and every route you fly. Marcus announced with commanding authority that silenced the entire cabin. Every person who participated in my illegal removal from this aircraft is now terminated from employment and will face federal criminal charges. The effect was immediate and devastating. Captain Robert Sterling went completely white as he realized his aviation career was over. Karen Mitchell looked like she wanted to disappear through the aircraft floor. Janet Morrison stopped recording as she understood that her viral video had just documented her own federal crimes. Captain Robert Sterling, you ordered the illegal removal of the owner of this airline based on racial discrimination. Marcus continued with unmistakable authority. You are terminated from Williams Aviation Group immediately, and your pilot's license will be revoked permanently. Robert's 22-year aviation career had just ended with a single discriminatory decision that would prevent him from ever flying commercially again. Karen Mitchell, you participated in racial profiling and supported the illegal removal of a passenger based on discriminatory assumptions, Marcus said as he turned to face the senior flight attendant. You are terminated immediately and will face federal civil rights charges. Karen's face had gone completely pale as she realized that her 8 months with Horizon Air had just ended with termination for discrimination that would destroy her aviation career permanently. Marcus addressed Janet Morrison directly as federal agents prepared to arrest her. Ms. Morrison, you initiated this discrimination with racist language and illegal seizure of my property. You are under arrest for federal civil rights violations, and you are permanently banned from all Williams Aviation Group aircraft. Janet finally understood that her viral video had documented her own federal crimes rather than her victory over airline fraud. FBI agents placed her under arrest while her social media video played on investigators' phones as evidence of her violations. David Walsh, Lisa Martinez, and Michael Johnson, you witnessed federal civil rights violations without reporting them or intervening to protect a passenger's rights. Marcus continued, you are all terminated from Williams Aviation Group immediately. The entire Flight 2847 crew had been fired and faced federal charges within 20 minutes of Marcus's return to the aircraft. Marcus addressed the remaining passengers who had witnessed the entire incident. Ladies and gentlemen, what you observed represents the most serious violation of our company's values and federal law that I've encountered in 29 years of building this airline. His voice carried throughout the cabin as he continued. This incident will result in comprehensive changes to our hiring, training, and oversight procedures to ensure that discrimination never occurs again on any Williams Aviation Group aircraft. Federal agents arrested Janet Morrison, Captain Sterling, and Karen Mitchell on charges, including civil rights violations, conspiracy to violate civil rights, and violation of federal aviation regulations. All three would serve significant prison sentences and face civil lawsuits that would financially destroy them. The incident triggered the largest airline discrimination investigation in FAA history. Within 24 hours, Janet's video had been viewed over 500 million times worldwide, making it the most watched aviation discrimination incident in history. Marcus called a major press conference where he announced a 50-point plan for eliminating discrimination in aviation, including a $400 million fund for discrimination prevention and victim compensation. The criminal cases resulted in federal prison sentences for all involved. Janet Morrison received the longest sentence, 3 years in federal prison, plus substantial fines and a permanent aviation ban. Captain Sterling's pilot license was permanently revoked, ending his career and preventing him from working in any aviation capacity. Karen Mitchell was blacklisted from the airline industry and faced civil lawsuits that left her financially ruined. Most importantly, the incident led to the passage of the Airline Passenger Equality Act, federal legislation requiring comprehensive anti-discrimination training and creating severe penalties for aviation discrimination. Marcus's keynote address at the International Aviation Safety Conference became the most watched aviation industry presentation in history, with over 200 million views worldwide. The discrimination incident ironically led to Williams Aviation Group receiving the largest expansion contracts in company history, as other airlines and aviation companies sought to partner with the industry's leading advocate for passenger rights. Marcus used a $400 million lawsuit settlement to establish the Aviation Civil Rights Foundation, which has helped over 10,000 discrimination victims and funded bias prevention programs worldwide. Janet Morrison's life was permanently destroyed by her viral video. After serving her federal prison sentence, she was unable to find employment anywhere and became a cautionary tale used in civil rights training programs. Flight 2847 was completely restaffed within hours, with new crew members selected for their demonstrated commitment to inclusive service. The flight continued to New York with Marcus in his rightful seat, where he received a standing ovation from passengers upon landing. The incident became legendary proof that discrimination has severe consequences regardless of who commits it. Marcus's response demonstrated that individual courage combined with institutional power can create immediate justice and lasting change. Williams Aviation Group grew to become the world's largest minority-owned aviation company, with Marcus's discrimination experience serving as a foundation for industry-leading equality and inclusion programs. The 15 minutes between Marcus being removed from Flight 2847 and his return as CEO became the most expensive discrimination incident in aviation history, costing the perpetrators their freedom, careers, and financial security, while creating lasting protections for all airline passengers. Marcus often reflects that his success gave him the power to create immediate justice, but also the responsibility to ensure that his experience protects others who face discrimination without the resources to fight back effectively. Power means nothing if it's not used to advance justice and equality, he said during his Harvard Business School commencement address. When we use our success to fight discrimination and create opportunities for others, we change entire industries and build a more equitable world for everyone. If the story of courage and justice inspired you, please share it with others who need to understand that discrimination has consequences and that standing up for equality can transform entire industries. Hit that like button. Subscribe for more incredible stories of justice prevailing over prejudice, and tell me in the comments about times you've witnessed the power of moral courage defeating discrimination. Because Marcus Williams proved that sometimes the most painful moments of injustice become opportunities for extraordinary positive change that protects everyone in our society.